They say nature doesn't get political until an HOA tries to annex your lake. It was supposed to be my sanctuary, a little patch of wild tucked behind a county line, surrounded by pine trees and silence. No neighbors, no rules, just me, the dock I built, and a sky so quiet you could hear a heron land across the water. But that was before Karen. She came into my life uninvited, literally. I was sipping coffee on the dock one morning when I spotted them, 3 SUVs, pulling up through the side trail I'd sealed off months ago. Out came her guests, carrying coolers, folding chairs, tents, a grill. I watched in stunned silence as they marched down to my lakefront, and began setting up like they were hosting a family reunion. On my land. Then I heard it, her voice. "We always use this side," she said casually. "He barely comes out here anyway." He, by the way, was me. I walked out from behind the trees and said, as calmly as I could, "You're trespassing." Karen gave me a once-over, like I was the rude one at her party. "You must be confused," she replied. "This shoreline's part of the community. You're not allowed to block us." That's when I realized she wasn't clueless. She was lying. And when I told her to leave, she called the cops. That day, she triggered something. Not just a police call, but a legal cold-blooded trap. And what she didn't know was, it was already halfway sprung. Let me back up. I bought the lake lot 3 years ago, after a tough stretch in life, divorce, corporate burnout. I wanted peace, something untouched, so I found this forgotten parcel just outside the Maple Ridge HOA limits. Off-grid, beautiful, and most importantly, not governed by anyone's made-up bylaws. I spent a year restoring it. Put up a solar panel, rebuilt the dock, even hosted my nephews for campfire weekends. It wasn't luxury, but it was mine. Until Karen noticed. She ran the HOA next door like a petty dictatorship. Rumor had it she fined a guy $200 because his bird feeder wasn't approved neutral color. This was the kind of woman who patrolled property lines with a tape, measure in binoculars. The first time she showed up, I was planting lavender along my trail. She didn't greet me, just pointed at the dock. "You know the HOA owns lake access rights, right?" I said. "I'm not in your HOA." "Well, you're bordering it. That affects things. Not legally." She narrowed her eyes like I'd insulted her dog. 2 days later, a flyer appeared on the pine tree at my lot entrance. "Notice, you are encroaching on Maple Ridge. Recreational access zone." It wasn't signed, but I knew the font. HOA Karen's calling card. That's when the signs started. Then the subtle incursions. Beer cans on my trail. Folding chairs by my fire pit. One day I even found a kid's inflatable raft tied to my dock. The audacity was growing. I installed trail cams. What I saw on playback nearly made me choke. Karen, leading a group onto my property, telling them it's practically part of the commons. He's just a hermit. They laughed. One guy cracked a beer. A kid urinated in my flower bed. The line had been crossed. No, trampled. So I called her. "I have footage," I told her. "This is trespassing." She replied, all sugar. "Oh, please. Don't be dramatic. We've used that trail for years." I said, "Not anymore." She hung up. Next day, my private property signs were gone. Ripped out. So I posted stronger ones, bolted to trees, and submitted a formal trespassing report with the sheriff. I thought that would scare her straight. It didn't. It made her bolder. That weekend, she hosted a full-blown BBQ on my dock. Over 20 people. Kids splashing in the water. Music blaring. And yes, Karen, waving from a camping chair like she was the mayor of the lake. I filmed it all. Didn't yell. Didn't approach. Just documented. Because by then I had a plan. A surgical, lawful, ironclad plan. But before I could execute it, she called the cops on me. It was surreal. Deputy Callahan pulled up as I was pruning shrubs. "Mr. Ellis," he said, "we got a call you were threatening local residents, children included." "Let me guess," I said. "Karen," he nodded. "She says you've been harassing community guests." I handed him a flash drive. Surveillance footage. All time-stamped. All from my land. He took it. Watched a few clips in his cruiser, then came back shaking his head. "She says this area's under community access." "She says a lot," I replied. "But the deed says otherwise." He asked for proof. I had it laminated. That's when his tone shifted. "She's pushing her luck." I said, "Oh, she's not just pushing. She's fallen off the cliff." But that cliff, I was about to shove it straight into court. And Karen, she kept digging deeper. The very next day, she plastered flyers all over the lake trail. "Community Lakeshore, access encouraged. Non-members cannot gatekeep shared land." She even printed a fake map with a drawn-in access corridor running straight through my land. But it wasn't just lies. She'd used HOA funds to rent a portable toilet and place it on my property. A county inspector later said that was a code violation and a Class B environmental offense. She didn't just trespass. She defiled. That was the last straw. I didn't warn her, I filed, and I started preparing the final blow. Because buried deep in the HOA Charter, Article 4, Section 3B was a clause. Any misrepresentation of property rights using HOA resources shall result in immediate disciplinary review. And Karen had just written her own termination letter. All I had to do was deliver it, while Karen was busy throwing lake parties and barking HOA buzzwords at the trees. I was talking to lawyers. Not just any lawyers, land use attorneys. The quiet, detail-obsessed kind who read municipal code like bedtime stories. Together, we put together what I called the HOA kill folder. In it, satellite images with GPS overlays of my property line, footage from 6 different trespassing incidents, Karen's flyers and public misrepresentations, proof she used HOA funds for a private porta-potty setup, and the audio clip of her telling a guest, "It's not his land anymore, it's ours now. You can't buy that kind of arrogance." She gift-wrapped it for me. I emailed it to the Maple Ridge HOA board. I didn't demand anything. I just labeled the folder. Legal exposure and charter violations. Involving HOA president. Immediate action advised. Within 2 days, silence. But that Sunday, I sped things up. I arrived early. Laptop, monitor, speaker, generator. Set up the monitor at the trail. On loop, a highlight reel of Karen trespassing. Ordering people around. And calling my land community space. By noon, HOA members were walking down and freezing. She told us this was public. Wait, she doesn't own this? Karen arrived at 12:30, red-faced and rattled. She tried to unplug the monitor. I stopped her cold. "You touch that. You're tampering with evidence." "I'll call the police," she hissed. "Perfect," I said. "Bring them. I've got a flash drive ready for them too." She stormed off. An hour later, I received an email from the board. "Dear Mr. Ellis, following your submission and evidence review, the HOA has placed Ms. M on administrative removal pending investigation and formally acknowledges your parcel as private and excluded from all HOA designations." The queen of the shoreline had been dethroned, but Karen didn't take her suspension quietly. She tried to rally neighbors. No one came. Still, she filed a civil complaint against me. She claimed I defamed her and interfered with historic lake privileges. But this time, we were in court. Courtroom 4B smelled like old books and stale entitlement. Karen sat with her lawyer, arms crossed, lips pursed, trying to wear confidence like perfume. Her eyes kept darting toward my table. My lawyer laid out the packet of evidence, like a blackjack hand: deed, boundary, survey, photos, witness statements, and the HOA charter clause she violated blown up on foam board. Her lawyer tried to argue that community use had existed long before Mr. Ellis took residence. The judge wasn't impressed. "Do you have a legal easement?" "No, Your Honor." "Is the land in question part of your jurisdiction?" "No, Your Honor." "Then what exactly are we doing here?" Karen's face dropped. The ruling was swift. Mr. Ellis is the sole lawful owner of the lakefront parcel. The court issues a permanent injunction against unauthorized access by Maple Ridge HOA members. Furthermore, the plaintiff knowingly misrepresented private land boundaries, caused reputational and financial damage, and may be subject to environmental violations. It was over. She didn't just lose, she imploded. The HOA board removed her. Issued an apology. Residents demanded reimbursements. Karen listed her home and disappeared. Her silence was louder than any flyer she ever posted. Peace returned like a tide. No flyers, no SUVs, just birds in the wind. Karen thought power came from proximity, from paperwork and yelling. But power, real power, is knowing you're right and waiting for the other person to sink themselves. She called the cops. She called the court. But in the end, none of it saved her. Because when the truth caught up, quiet, slow, bulletproof, she had nothing to stand on. Now my land is respected, and the HOA even posted a sign. Beyond this point, private land. Thank you for respecting our neighbor. Sometimes I walk past it and smile. Karen couldn't take my land, but she gave me a story, a warning, and proof that silence, when used right, is louder than any siren. So if you made it to the end, comment "Trap Sprung" below, and tell me, what would you have done? Quiet revenge? Legal war? Or let them scream themselves out? Either way, own your peace, guard your ground, and never, never underestimate the power of a man with a camera and a copy of the deed.